The story begins in a heavily guarded storage room, where a masked man breaks open a glass case and picks up the precious gems inside. As the guards notice him, the man turns around and shocks them when they see him with an invisible body. Before the guards can catch him, the masked man easily floats over them and escapes by breaking out of the building's window. News of this phantom thief called Kaido Kid suddenly spread around the city. At a certain school, a student called Ayako discusses Kaido Kid's cool stunts with her friends. Suddenly, her friend Kaido rickrolls her with a magic trick and sneaks a peek at her panties. As Ayako starts chasing Kaido around for revenge, their class teacher sighs helplessly as both students effortlessly solve her questions and keep on fighting. Ayako misses Kaido but tells him he won't stand a chance against the magic thief Kaido Kid. This challenge intrigues Kaido, and he leaves class early to track Kaido Kid and defeat him. Ayako tells him that even her father, who is the chief detective, has failed to catch the elusive thief. But Kaido runs away without even answering. Meanwhile, in Detective Nakamori's office, news alerts him that 8 years after his disappearance, the legendary Kaido Kid has once again announced to steal another gem at night. Ripping apart the FBI's top secret documents in his excitement, the detective vows to finally catch his lifelong enemy. In Kaido's room, he thinks about Ayako's words, knowing that only his father, Toichi, can be a better magician than he is. As Kaido stares at his father's portrait, he remembers him impressing everyone at a party and saving Ayako from his bullying. After the party, Toichi sat down with Kaido and taught him the poker face, warning him that just like in poker, a real magician always hides his emotions and wears a poker face. In his thoughts, Kaido touches the portrait, but it suddenly spins around, which causes him to fall inside. As Ayako enters Kaido's room to return his bag, she finds him missing after the portrait settles down. Inside, Kaido falls into a big garage where lights turn on and a recording of his father starts playing. In his room, Ayako calls his mother Chikage and asks her what Kaido's weakness is. Chikage tells Ayako and leaves without an explanation, while Kaido learns that his father wanted to make him a magician. As Kaido receives his father's white magician uniform, he decides to respect his wishes and expose the new fraud Kaido Kid on the news. Later at night, the guards in the bank are all on high alert, but somehow, Kaido Kid still sneakily gets inside and turns the lights off. Disguised as a police officer, Kaido Kid breaks the glass case and takes the gem. As the police chase after him, Kaido Kid changes into his magician outfit and jumps out of the window. The police on the ground grab Kaido Kid, but it turns out to be a dummy. Kaido Kid escapes to the roof and starts calmly walking away, but gets confronted by a magician in white. The white magician calls him a fraud for using cheap tricks, while the detectives figure out that the thief is on the roof. Kaido Kid pulls out his invisibility trick, but white magician Kaido remains calm, silently observing the magician. Kaido Kid jumps at Kaido to attack him, but he catches his trick. Kaido Kid is shocked as the white magician's face falls off as a dummy with the real Kaido underneath, who exposes him with a card shot to his mask. It turns out that Kaido Kid was using mirrors to disguise himself, but the old man seems amazed by Kaido's abilities. It turns out that the old man is his father's assistant Ji, who thought he would never see his master again after he pulled off a dangerous stunt riding a roller coaster into a burning building. Ji only wanted to draw Toichi's attention by becoming a fake Kaido Kid, but learns that Toichi has died and Kaido is actually his son. Kaido then asks Ji if his father was truly a thief and was murdered, and he nods silently. The two of them get no time to discuss as the police rush up to the roof. Kaido covers for Ji to run away while he distracts the police and flies away on a glider. While going home, he notices someone mysterious standing at a height. Once Kaido returns, he goes to have dinner with Ayako, who presents him with a giant fish. Kaido tries to maintain a poker face despite hating fish, and Ayako tries to force him to eat it since she knows about his weakness. As they struggle, the precious gem Kaido stole ends up in the fish's mouth, which Ayako's father finds and faints from. As the days go on, Kaido politely takes 5 more gems from banks, while the policemen gather to welcome and watch his performance every time. Kaido walks home cheerfully, planning a big heist the next day, when he gets a phone call from a strange voice. The voice warns him that since he did not steal a gem they needed, he will let Kaido go, but if he keeps getting in their way, he'll perform a magic trick that will transport Kaido's soul from his body into heaven. Kaido asks Grandpa Ji about this, who tells him that he should be extra careful now. Ji gives him a set of new props for his next magic show, and Kaido learns that a certain professor makes them for him. Later at school, Kaido learns that it's Ayako's 17th birthday, so he asks her if she is a boy since her chest is as flat as a cutting board.
Emotional, damn it!
After getting humbled by her, Kaido asks her for a birthday present, and she asks him to catch the Kaido Kid who has been ruining her dad's days. She thinks that Kaido Kid is just a cruel man who likes pranking her father by stealing gems and just returning them later, which makes Kaido feel guilty since he is just trying to get the attention of the people who slayed his dad years ago. As Kaido gets ready to put on his dress, his father's recording tells him to never reveal his tricks ahead of time. Kaido takes the obvious lesson and leaves for another performance. Inside the bank, Inspector Nakamori waits patiently for Kaido Kid to strike for the blue gem. Kaido opens a hole from the roof and notices the gem is guarded by invisible lasers and an unbreakable cage. He throws an inflatable dummy into the cage, which makes Nakamori cut off the power to catch the thief. Kaido takes this chance to steal the gem and run away, but Nakamori grins since he put a tracker inside the gem. He notices that Kaido is on the roof. Kaido gets impatient to fly off to Ayako's party, but the same strange man from earlier calls him from behind. The man thinks he is Toichi, who survived, and Kaido asks why they are after precious gems. He learns that the men know the grand gems in the world may have a chance to grant eternal life. After the man tells this secret, he takes the gem from Kaido and shoots, leaving him to fall off the edge. Meanwhile, Ayako's friends tease her for inviting her little boyfriend to the party, as she secretly hopes Kaido doesn't ditch the event and forget to show up. The strange men take the gem to their leader, who tells them that if the gem shines under the moonlight and reveals the red gem of eternity, Pandora, they could finally drink its tears to achieve immortality. However, as the man shines the gem in the moon, he only gets dunked on with a piece of paper as Kaido laughs from a nearby tree. He reveals that the gem was just a fake, and he hid the real gem in his chest to survive the gunshot. All of the rogues start shooting at Kaido, who punts their leader to the ground with the real gem to his head and escapes. The man is left with a Pandora-less gem and the police tracking his location, so he uses underground tunnels to escape. Inspector Nakamori retrieves the blue gem and goes out to celebrate his victory, forgetting his own daughter's birthday. As it almost turns midnight, Ayako feels betrayed that Kaido didn't attend her party. However, she receives a call from him to look out her window, and sees a giant building glow with the words "Happy Birthday Ayako," and a beautiful fireworks show set up by GI for her. Ayako calms down and thanks Kaido for his present, even though he couldn't make it to her party. Sometime later, a young detective from London called Hakuba starts gaining popularity on the news. Nakamori feels jealous of his popularity as his guards inform him that Hakuba will be going after Kaido Kid soon. Meanwhile, Kaido struggles to walk on an ice skating rink without Ayako's help, flailing around pathetically like a drowning penguin. As Ayako drags him away, he prays that GI was right about a grand jewel being hidden inside a painting near the rink. Later at night, Hakuba dumbfounds Inspector Nakamori by asking him for key details on Kaido Kid that the old man never even thought of. Kaido easily sends a guard to Dreamland in a car and gets inside the museum after fooling Nakamori with the guard's uniform. However, Hakuba finds the guard unconscious as he patrols the outside area. Suddenly, inside the museum, a gas fills the room, which stuns the guards. Once it clears out, they notice the painting has been replaced with a mocking poster and run outside to catch the thief. With the room empty, Kaido appears and takes off the poster before searching the real painting inside for the gem. Hakuba already expected Kaido to pull this trick, so he calls him out. Kaido turns to make his escape, but finds that he has cut off all his escape routes. However, he still has his hang glider, which he uses to jump out in the open. The harsh winds make Kaido crash outside the museum, and the police chase after him. He uses a dummy to distract them in the ice skating rink, but falls flat on his thick bottom. Nakamori goes after the dummy, thinking that the real Kaido can't be so pathetic, which gives him the chance to escape, while Hakuba notes this weakness. The next day at school, Hakuba transfers as a student in Kaido's class. Kaido checks the gem he stole at night, but finds out it wasn't the right one. Then he gets ready for his next heist. In the morning, Ayako invites Kaido to a concert she won tickets for, but he refuses because of his heist. Hakuba takes this chance to rizz up Ayako instead as Kaido taunts him for being unable to catch the great Kaido Kid. He accepts the challenges and proposes that if he proves Kaido wrong, he'll go to the concert with Ayako instead. Hakuba gets ready to guard Kaido Kid's targeted statue with the police while Kaido makes his way over in the vents. As it takes too long for Kaido Kid to appear, Ayako gets anxious thinking that Hakuba will win instead of Kaido, but Kaido finally appears in the basement, only to be met with a young detective waiting for him. Hakuba presses a button to fill the room with a drugging gas, so Kaido shoots out the gas mask from his hand. Both boys reach for the mask as the police make their way down and find Hakuba victorious with Kaido trapped in a hole. As Hakuba goes up to answer his interview, he suddenly pulls out a wand that blows up into a balloon and floats away with him and the statue. By the time the police realize that Kaido simply disguised himself as Hakuba after using his hat to snatch the mask away from Hakuba, it's too late. However, Hakuba was prepared for this and had the statue chained to the ground. Kaido quickly looks at the gem inside the statue and shine it under the moonlight to check. Finding out it was fake, he prepares to leave, but Nakamori shoots his balloon which sends him home flying. As both boys lose their bet and end up in the hospital, Ayako is stuck on a date with her snoozing dad. One day in his Diddy basement, Kaido learns from his father that there is only one difference between magic tricks and spells. But Kaido dismisses it, thinking that spells aren't even real. Meanwhile, a woman called Akako gets an ego boost from a mirror, thinking she is the evil stepmother from Snow White. However, the mirror shatters her Delulu thoughts and tells her that she will never be attractive enough for the Giga Chad Kaido kid. The next day in school, Ayako dreams of giving Kaido some chocolate, but sadly doesn't have the courage to present it to him. When she enters her class, she finds the charming transfer student Akako surrounded by simps trying to get her bath water. Suddenly, Kaido appears with a chocolate from every girl in existence. He feels excited about his lucky day and asks Akako to give him one as well, but she knocks him into the wall with a spell. Akako demands that he give up all the other girls' chocolates if he wants hers, so Chad Kaido simply refuses. The self-proclaimed Queen Akako feels shocked that Kaido rejected her, but realizes that the only man out of her control is the legendary Kaido Kid. She decides to expose him for his real identity. She goes home and cooks a bunch of devious materials in a freaky pot and throws in Kaido's handkerchief to curse him. Kaido feels cold and asks Ji if spells really exist. He nods before explaining that there are many colors of sorcery with their real strengths, and warns Kaido to take care of himself since the night is going to be a full moon. At night, Kaido once again begins a heist to steal a gem. He easily fools the police once again, but this time Akako slams a voodoo doll in his shape, which causes pain to shoot through his body. As the police get close to Kaido, he screams in pain and barely manages to escape with a smoke bomb. As he stumbles outside to meet Ji, Kaido hears Akako's voice call to him, and he floats up to the sky. The power takes him to Akako dressed in a skimpy witch outfit. She squeezes the Kaido doll in her hands to cause him more pain and takes him to a red magic circle. As Ayako regrets not giving Kaido her chocolate, Akako traps him in a fire circle and offers him her own chocolate to steal his heart. Tortured by the pain from the burning flames, Kaido reaches out with his hand to take the chocolate. But just as he raises the chocolate to his mouth, snowflakes start falling from the sky. Akako notices that Kaido stopped eating the chocolate, and he explains that the snow will put out her fire. Akako taunts Kaido for using another cheap trick to get away, but he tells her that even if his tricks are fake, people love watching a magician. He then reminds her that if she keeps trying to force people to love her, she will only grow more and more lonely from the fake love. As Kaido leaves with this final message, tears spring from Akako's eyes as she realizes her mistake. The next day at school, Kaido steals Ayako's chocolate while Akako watches them from afar. She plots her sinister revenge against him, but a snowball to the face snaps her back to reality as she chases after them. A few days later in school, Kaido reads the Phantom Thief's plans to steal a literal clock tower from the city. Ayako gets upset about the clock tower for some reason, but her friend drags her away. Meanwhile, Akako whispers into Kaido's ears that the literal devil gave a prophecy that a light from the east will strike down a certain white sinner, and she leaves after warning him to give up, leaving Kaido completely stunned. Inspector Nakamori's co-workers wonder how Kaido Kid will steal a literal building, but the clock tower's owner explains that his father had some precious gems crafted into the hour hands of the tower, which is probably what the thief is after. As the time for the theft comes, the clock tower owner grins, knowing that he has already sold the real gems and replaced them with fakes. He waits for Kid to show up and gets scammed as he waits to sell the tower afterward. Kaido disguises himself once again as a guard and makes his way inside the clock tower building. Meanwhile, Akako discovers that a helicopter must be the light from her prophecy, while Nakamori gets contacted by the pilot who claims to be reinforcements. Kaido gets inside and easily answers the security's questions about the guard's name, address, and phone number. However, when they ask about his license plate number, he runs fast since he never actually saw the man's car. The head of security reports his success to Nakamori, saying that the helicopter boy made him ask that genius question, leaving the detective confused about this devious new helper. The boy in the helicopter easily pinpoints Kaido's location, and the guards quickly catch up. He tells Nakamori that he is Detective Shinichi and will help him finally arrest the menace that is Kaido Kid. Shinichi reassures the guards that all vents have been secured so they can easily track Kaido Kid down. As one guard reports that Kaido Kid has left his disguise and started running away, a strange guard above him knocks him out before he can report any further messages. The police start looking for the running Kaido Kid while the real Kaido easily sneaks up to the top of the tower. Suddenly, smoke covers the entire building, and everyone gasps to see the hour hands missing from the clock. On the helicopter, Shinichi notices that the clock is actually swaying with the wind like a painting. Nakamori gets to the top of the tower, but Kaido takes out his walkie-talkie with his card gun. He tells the detective to decode his message on the tower while outside. Shinichi figures out his trick and prepares to shoot at the painting. His shots trap Kaido from moving. While on the ground, Akako watches helplessly, unable to use her magic in front of everyone to save Kaido. Somehow, Kaido throws his cloak back and jumps right as Shinichi shoots the rods holding up the painting and uncovering it. The detective gives up in respect, knowing that Kaido will now escape among the crowd. Shinichi reads the code Kaido engraved on the tower and realizes that he has found out about the fake gems and warned the owner that he won't get to enjoy his fraud. Kaido makes his way to Ayako, who remembers meeting him for the first time in her childhood when her father was late to see her. That was when Kaido appeared and surprised her with a blue rose. He greets her again with the same magic trick, to show that he does care for her despite all his mean words. For his next heist, Kaido tries stealing the valuable angel's crown. However, when Nakamori's guard shines a bright light on his face, he gets shocked, so Kaido escapes and warns that he will come back for it on the weekend. The next day, Nakamori keeps staring at Kaido's face while he tries to eat Ayako's awful steaks that literally crumble to dust. Nakamori notices them arguing about the food like a married couple, so he asks his daughter if she's dating him. After Ayako denies it, she asks if that was the reason he was staring at Kaido, but Nakamori shakes his head and explains that it's because he thinks Kaido is actually Kaido Kid, as proof that he isn't the Phantom Thief. Ayako tells her dad that he even proposed to take her on a date for the weekend. It turns out that she was simply lying to get an excuse to take out Kaido on a date. Kaido accepts her offer after she literally begs him, and Ayako copes with her delusion that she is just protecting him from her father. Kaido asks Ji for advice, who gives him a goofy ball to protect him during his next stunt. Kaido's dad also tells him to keep calm despite people suspecting him since magicians have always been Suzubakas. And so, he goes out on a date with Ayako, doing normal stuff like bullying her the entire time. Both of them enjoy their play fight, and when it gets to nighttime, Kaido enters a movie theater with Ayako to plan his escape. However, Ayako doesn't trust his shady rear, so she puts him in cuffs before wearing her movie glasses. Kaido still manages to get out of the cuffs and put a dummy in them before leaving to steal his gem. With only 40 minutes remaining, Kaido arrives at the gem, but Nakamori suddenly pops up and tries to look at his face. However, he gets shocked to see his own daughter Ayako as Kaido Kid, and he runs away after taunting him. With only 2 minutes left to make it back before the movie ends, Kaido is forced to ride under a roller coaster like some Tom and Jerry episode. Somehow, he manages not to die as the roller coaster kicks him off exactly where the theater is, and he breaks through the roof to nuke the dummy right as the movie ends. Watching Kaido Kid's attempted heist on the news, Ayako feels relieved that her Kaido isn't a thief, and she buys him some ice cream, ending their date on a good note. One day, Akako feels too frustrated that Kaido is ruining her plans of being the most attractive woman in the world, so she decides to simply remove him from existence. As Nakamori prepares to defend yet another defenseless gem from Kaido's greedy hands, Akako appears and knocks him out with a spell. Nakamori stumbles back inside the gem room in a strange zombie walk, and as Kaido pops out to steal the gem, he starts shooting at him like a maniac, even shocking his own guards. Kaido uses jet propellers on his shoes to get the hell out of the place, and uses a rope hook to climb to a distant building. However, he meets Akako at the end, and she threatens him to remove him from the world by cutting off the rope. Kaido bluffs, saying he can just fly off, but Akako knows he won't be able to survive from this height. So Kaido dares her to cut the rope, but she hesitates, remembering the time he kindly saved her. Kaido calls her out for being unable to defeat him, and Akako tries to refuse, but before that, the inspector, who was still under her spell, cuts off the rope himself. Kaido reacts quickly and saves Akako with his hang glider. He drops her off at a safe spot before calling her out for being a child instead of a ruthless adult. Akako complains that he also acts like a mischievous kid, going around stealing gems for no reason, but he reminds her that the word is literally in his name, and then disappears, letting her understand her own feelings. A few days later, Kaido walks out of yet another bank after stealing another precious gem while disguised as Ayako. He returns the gem after finding out it's not Pandora, but some shady guys track him while in his disguise. The leader of the men thinks that Ayako is actually the real Kaido kid since she has been appearing as his double for quite a while. He connects her with her father, Inspector Nakamori, saying that she always sends the gems back to her father to commit fraud. Deciding to capture Ayako and expose her to her father, the man sends her a trap invitation. The next day, Ayako shows Kaido her new hairpin while revealing that she has received an invitation to a fancy dinner at the top of a tower. Kaido thinks she is going to invite him, but gets cucked by Akako instead. However, Akako finds it suspicious that Ayako received an invitation without ever trying to apply for it, and Kaido realizes that someone might be trying to trap her out of a misunderstanding. After discussing the matter with Gi, Kaido disguises himself as Inspector Nakamori and ends up taking Ayako out instead of Akako for her own safety. As Ayako heads inside the dining room, Kaido notices how empty it is. The oblivious airhead Ayako runs up to a display car and starts it, but it releases handcuffs on her and knocks her out with gas. Just then, a bunch of men appear behind Kaido, claiming to settle the score from over 18 years in the past. The man brings up the Phantom Lady of the past, and Kaido remembers the story. The Phantom Lady was a scary thief who made police officers pass out from fear by making them think she cut off their limbs. However, one time she tried to steal a precious motorcycle when the real Kaido kid Tuichi suddenly appeared and greeted her. He informed her that the bike was just a fake one on display, while the real one was out in the market with a bunch of counterfeits up for sale. The Phantom Lady complained that she had to steal it because someone created a fake announcement that she would do it, and tried turning on the bike. However, it just launched a handcuff on her hand while the gangsters appeared behind her. Angry at the Phantom Lady for taking the real gems and exposing the fakes to ruin their business, the man threatened to put her down. But Tuichi easily rode the bike into the window, leaping out of the shattered glass. The Phantom Lady thought she was going to die, but Tuichi shut her mouth with his own before exposing her face. Then, he saved her on his hang glider and proposed to her that she quit her dangerous job of thieving and leave it up to him. Chikage, who would later become Kaido's mother, made Tuichi promise that if she gave him his heart, he wouldn't go for another woman. This time, however, Kaido has no room to escape since his giant car won't fit through the building's small windows. As the men point their guns at him, he wonders if the magic thief is truly stuck this time. However, the goated magician tosses out some smoke bombs, which blind the gangsters, and once the smoke clears, they find the car gun. The boss gets shocked because he thought the car was just a prop to trap Ayako, but learns that his dumbass crewmate wanted to recreate the moment from 18 years ago, so he got a real vehicle. He's left with no time to react as Kaido circles around them. The gang members shoot at the car, but its glass blocks the bullets. Kaido then drives the car in a circular path, which allows him to drive diagonally to fit through the small windows and jump outside. Knowing they failed, the gang members try to escape the building, but get trapped by threads that Kaido left inside. As the car falls to its inevitable doom, Kaido fumbles to get a lockpick for Ayako's handcuffs, but realizes a bullet tore his pocket and caused the pick to fall out. He quickly uses his big brain to use Ayako's hairpin as a lockpick, saving the day just like his father did all those years ago. Unfortunately, Kaido feels too scared to actually kiss the girl in his arms. Kaido later contacts his mother to scream at her for making him handle those goons. She tells him that since he was such a sweetheart about taking care of her enemies, he should just take out the rest of them who are after her as well. And thus, Kaido receives a big pile of fake treasures that Chikage stole as the Phantom Lady and a list of the scammers who were involved with the president's gang. He goes to his dad for advice and learns that if he feels unsure about what move to take next, he can always pull reverse psychology to steer the audience the way he wants. With this advice in mind, he gets ready to expose the criminals who exploited his mother. Inspector Nakamori learns that Kaido Kid has offered to return 3 original versions of treasures stolen at an exhibition years ago. He doesn't want to let the kid, even if he's claiming to help. but his superintendent tells him that it's a good chance to trap the elusive thief. Once the exhibition starts, Kaido easily sneaks in as a guard. He notices some shady people easily get pulled out by undercover police, showing the extra guard. Then, as Kaido walks through a hall, he notices a certain Detective Conan going around with Ayako. Kaido discusses this new problem with Ji and prepares to deliver another message to the audience. As a man reads the message announcing that Kaido Kid will return all the stolen items just on the night of the next day, the audience erupts into shock and wonder, while Conan wonders how Kaido will return the items on the next day. Kaido prepares his props for his grandest performance yet, with the toughest challenge in front of him this time. At home, Nakamori wonders why Kaido is waiting for the next day, and blurts out that Conan predicted it was because of the upcoming rain. The owner, Toruma, thought that Kaido Kid might try to take a gem from the gun in the 3 artifacts, but still kept it open despite the threat. Kaido knows that this is because he's used to letting the items get stolen and selling fake replicas of the stolen items for profit. As the exhibition starts, Kaido easily sneaks inside disguised as a fat man. He approaches a space marked for Kaido Kid to return the artifacts, but encounters Conan nearby, who already knows that Kaido Kid might actually take the bait and actually show up at such an obvious spot. Just then, Nakamori arrives and tells Conan that perhaps the real reason Kaido Kid is appearing is not to return treasures, but to clean something with the rain. His vague prediction fails to impress Conan while Kaido goes to the bathroom. He notices Conan right next to his stall and points a replica gun at him. He informs him that he's only there to return the items and warns Conan not to get in his way. As the little boy rushes outside to catch him, he gets dragged away by Ran. Then he notices a code on one of his sister's arms that was written by Kaido, and realizes his true plans. Conan informs the shocked exhibition owner that if he isn't careful, Kaido might end up just taking all his items away instead of stealing them. As it gets later and later with no appearance from Kaido Kid, everyone gets bored, but Ji starts a show disguised as a grandma by getting freaky with poor Nakamori. With the detective distracted, Kaido makes his appearance and causes the fire sprinklers to go off with a torch. As the sprinklers wash everyone, Kaido increases the water pressure to block their sight and disappear. Once the water stops, the exhibition owners discover that their real items have been replaced by fakes, crying out in misery. However, Nakamori notices a fake description tablet on one of the cases, which he takes off and finds out that all the items on display were fake. Conan discusses this plan with Kaido, knowing that the owners just used the exhibitions to create hype for black market customers to purchase the stolen rare goods, but would just scam them with fakes. Since the rich men couldn't defend themselves for buying stolen items, they couldn't even sue the owners for forgery. And so, Kaido leaves behind dozens of fake items for everyone to see, leaving the owners to face the wrath of the police. Conan figures out which person Kaido was since he understandably needed a fat body to cover all the stolen goods he was carrying. He tells Kaido that he'll let him go this time since he didn't do anything to actually harm someone, and the two geniuses part ways. Sometime later, Kaido's school goes on a ski picnic. Their teacher announces that the kids will all be competing in a couples match to win an exciting prize, and Ayako wonders if Kaido will even consider her as his partner. Later, the noble Queen Elizabeth is escorted by her guards in a secure train. She feels excited to meet the legendary Kaido Kid and uncover his mystery. The woman knows that Kaido Kid is there to steal her necklace, which has Europe's most precious topaz on it. Of course, since she is just wearing a replica, she wonders how Kaido Kid will find the real gem before the train reaches its stop. Just then, little Prince Philip comes out of his room and points out that her necklace actually has a voice recorder bug on it. Nakamori destroys the bug after screaming at Kaido to whoop him. Ayako tells a traumatized Kaido about how lucky they are to be with their queen. Hidden inside the train, the mysterious gang that slayed Kaido's father also discusses getting the gem before Kaido's kid can get his hands on it, no matter what. Ayako takes Kaido to meet the queen with her drunk dad, while Kaido quietly observes her cat, thinking they hid the gem in his eye, as he holds the cat to inspect it and takes a close look at Prince Philip's teddy bear. The little boy figures that he must be the sneaky Kaido Kid looking for the jewel. The little prince taunts Kaido with the gem's real location, but just then, his guard arrives to pick him up. Kaido tells the prince to go with the guard, but he refuses, saying he wants to protect his mom and the jewel. Kaido thinks that the boy must really love his mom, but he explains that even though his mother changed after his father's death and started hating him, he promised his dad to always protect his mom and country. Philip then finds his mother glaring at him, and the disgusting bitch harshly picks him up and throws him inside the room, even locking the little child to cry in darkness as a strange man maliciously watches from a corner. As the train gets close to its destination, Kaido gets desperate to find the jewel, but then realizes something as he watches the director drink so cheerfully with the queen. Kaido puts Ayako to sleep with a pill in her drink and gets up, turning off the power in the train. As Nakamori cuddles the queen to protect her, she realizes that their table now has a dozen drinks laid out. Nakamori also realizes that the gem was hidden in his drink, but thankfully, the queen soon finds it, only for Kaido Kid to snatch it out of her hand. With the jewel secured, Kaido Kids fly off from the train, leaving the detective frustrated once more. In reality, Kaido just sent off yet another dummy while sitting on the roof. He gets approached by Philip, who asks him to return the gem to him. Kaido checks the gem and finds out that it wasn't the Pandora, wondering how he even found it. As he learns that a strange man helped Philip, the man knocks the little prince down and threatens to send her to the other world if Kaido doesn't return the gem. Kaido obeys and turns his back to the man at his order, but suddenly throws his cloak in his face to distract him. As the man struggles to get the cloak off, he finds a tunnel quickly approaching to turn his body into a pancake, and he barely manages to fall off the train to save himself. Meanwhile, Kaido calls out the prince for getting the gem to impress his mother. The kid nods, but Kaido has a better idea for him to test his feelings. As Prince Philip tells his mom that he found Kaido, but let him escape with the gem, the woman grows furious with rage and slaps him. The poor prince gets heartbroken by his ruthless mother, but she scolds him for putting his life in danger and hugs him, relieved that at least her son is okay. Finally, the little prince gets some closure that, despite her anger, his mother does love him deep down in her heart. One day, Princess Anne from a European duchy shows up in Japan with her precious gem. Europe's best detective Delon escorts her, not even trusting the pathetically incompetent Nakamori to protect her from the sneaky Kaido Kid. Ayako feels sad that her father will get kicked out if he performs poorly while defending Anne, so Kaido goes to cheer him up, saying that a magician's tricks always make the crowd look the wrong way, so he can perform his setup. With this advice, he gifts him a lucky bunny and leaves. Later at night, Nakamori surrounds the princess's hotel with his guards, while the inside gets guarded by Delon and his men. Kaido manages to sneak inside disguised as an old count, but Delon easily sniffs him out. However, Kaido is able to keep up his disguise and get to the bathroom, where one of Delon's guards follows him, only to get transported to another world without his physical body. Delon's men appear and release the captured guard, but after they leave to search for Kaido, he grins at his disguise working so well. Kaido steals the poor man's disguise after leaving him in a bathroom and gathers all of the guards into a hall to clear up the rest of the building. Once all the guards are busy, Kaido sneaks into Princess Anne's room to get a devious peek into her skirt. She seems happy to see him anyway and asks him to play with her. However, Kaido tells her he doesn't have much time and requests to perform a magic show with her. In order to best perform his trick, Kaido requests the princess's gem and promises to return it afterward. She trusts him and hands the gem over, while Delon finally bursts inside the room as Kaido's dummy escapes outside. He shoots the dummy, which startles the ground guards, but Nakamori tells his men to stay sharp since Kaido could easily take this distraction to escape from somewhere else. Inside the room, Delan manages to find the real Kaido in the darkness from his gem's light. Delan shoots at Kaido's chest but only hits the gem, and Kaido then ambushes him with a strange illusion. As Anne snickers, Delon watches around the illusion of glowing lights. Since he knows that the jewel reflects the brightest light, he runs after it while shooting, but just ends up running out of a window that was shining a bright light. After the show ends, Kaido thanks the princess and hides her in a closet. The princess distracts the guards while Kaido checks the gem and finds that it also isn't the Pandora. Outside the hotel, Nakamori gets approached by a worried Anne, who informs him that she will hide in her safe house. However, Nakamori notices that her cat is missing and immediately pounces on the disguised Kaido Kid. Kaido is impressed by Nakamori's detection, but still escapes after leaving the gem in his lucky rabbit as a goodbye gift and protecting his position as the lead detective after the Phantom Thief. A few days later, Kaido gets angry as a fat millionaire called Jirakichi challenges him to steal his precious statue on the news. Gi warns him that the rich pig has a lot of money to defend himself, so he shouldn't announce his raid, but Kaido's pride refuses to let him sneak in like a coward. He consults his father for advice and learns that in order to handle the hecklers in his audience, he can either silence them or give them a show that would do something. since the recording cuts off midway. While walking through the market, Kaido realizes that all his fans can't wait to see him perform the heist of the century, so he gets motivated to perform extra well. He does his homework and the millionaire's defenses and learns that the man hired 20 helicopters and installed 100 security cameras around the building with no one to guard it from inside, so Kaido can forget about turning into the imposter and using them. Watching the old man confidently greet news reporters on TV, Kaido gets an idea and decides to perform a miracle to wow his audience. On the day of the announced raid, all the excited Kaido Kid fans wait outside the museum for his entrance. Gi flies over in a chopper, and Kaido jumps out on his glider to start the show. Once he gets around the roofs on the sides of the museum, he installs some hooks before popping a smoke bomb and reappearing in front of the audience. The people gasp as Kaido appears to float mid-air. The security lead thinks he's probably just using a wire or balloon and calls for his team to get him. However, the squad can't find any wires in the recordings, and the genius Conan, who is also present, watches Kaido's performance carefully. Before the security team can do anything, Kaido quickly pulls away with the teaser and leaves everyone craving for more. He announces his real performance on another day as they all wait impatiently. On the day of the final show, the rich fat rides his bike to confidently greet the reporters as Kaido appears again. A strong wind blows, and Conan checks out the roof to see some strange scratch marks on the walls. Once again, Kaido appears floating in the sky as the chopper above him loses its video feed. Conan learns that Kaido has an assistant who helps him jam signals as Jirakichi orders to get the statue secured back in the building. As two men go inside to retrieve the statue, one of the guards tells his friends to cut communication since Kaido Kid could hear him. It's actually just Kaido who disguises himself as the millionaire and drives off with the statue on a bike. However, he finds Conan riding with him, who caught his disguise. Conan explains Kaido's walking on air trick as he found out the cables that were holding him in the air. By using the fake helicopter with Gi right above him, he was able to hide the thin wires he was walking on with the wind and light. Then, Conan found out Kaido was riding in without wearing his goggles, knowing that his contact lenses would make his eyes hurt if he did. Kaido tries to deny being the thief while Conan reminds him that his partner Gi has been surrounded by the police helicopters. However, Kaido is confident Gi can escape since he put fake number stickers on all the other helicopters, leaving the cops with no way of knowing which one is fake. Kaido then tells Conan to stop acting all high and mighty, since just like magicians, he's a curious little scoundrel who loves getting into places he shouldn't be. However, Conan disagrees as he holds up a tranquilizer gun to take him down, not associating with a petty thief. Kaido remains confident in the face of his threat and, to Conan's surprise, ejects the seat he was on, leaving him behind as he informs him that he never even wanted the statue itself. The little brat manages to fire a dart into Kaido's fuel tank, which burns the bike, but he manages to escape on his glider just in time. As both boys calm their nerves after their intense encounter, Kaido knows that Conan has been left with a great respect for him, even after uncovering all his clever tricks. Sometime later, Kaido sneaks into the stage prep for the upcoming Marth and Rosa play, where the Green Dream Emerald will be put up for display. Kaido notices the lead actress named Rieko trashing a poor girl called Megumi for her bad performance. The other actors try to defend Megumi, but are left helpless as Rieko, the theater owner's daughter, leaves with a taunting remark. Working as a part-timer in the theater, Kaido snoops around to find the gem, but realizes he can't brute force his way with the number of security guards inside. He later stumbles onto the stage with Megumi practicing her lines flawlessly, doing every role with the right tone and emotions. Once she notices him watching her, the girl screams in fear, but Kaido explains that he's just a worker, not some creep who takes peeks into girls' panties. He compliments Megumi for her great acting, but she explains that even though she is great at practicing her lines alone, she gets frightened on the stage and messes up all her deliveries. Kaido understands her fear and tells her to try to imagine the audience as just a bunch of pumpkins who can't speak or judge her, and she agrees to try it next time. The next day, Kaido sits with Ayako in the audience as her father proudly announces his rock-solid defense of battery-powered lights against Kaido Kid's schemes. Ayako teases Kaido for watching a European romance play, and he is forced to bear teasing as the play starts. In one scene, the prince declares his love for the princess, comparing her to the dazzling emerald. However, Kaido doesn't show up to snatch it, much to the guards' relief. Nakamori points out that there is one last scene where the emerald will be shown, so they shouldn't lower their guard. As the heroine Ryuko appears and delivers her lines, Megumi performs well with her. But one of the heroine's lines confuses her, and she stutters, knocking a prop down and messing up the scene. Backstage, Ryuko harshly scolds Megumi for ruining her show and tells her to get out of her sight, which makes the poor girl cry. The helpers with her try to cheer up Megumi and take her to watch the final scene. As the last scene starts, the prince confesses his love to Princess Ryuko with a beautiful emerald ring. Nakamori feels confident that Kaido can't ruin the scene by hiding in the darkness, so Kaido just blasts his extra lights at max intensity and hides in the blinding light instead. Once the lights dim down, the jewel is nowhere to be seen. As everyone scampers around in a commotion, Nakamori's guards move to seal the theater to prevent Kaido Kid's escape. Suddenly, they all hear an unfamiliar voice continue the play and focus on the one servant girl, Megumi, who was still waiting for her prince on the stage. The lights shine on Megumi as the roof of the theater opens, and Kaido Kid descends as a magician in the story, ready to make the girl's dream come true. The magician dresses the girl in a princess's skirt and returns the emerald to her after shining it in the moon's light. Dressed up for the prince, Megumi is left to approach him and complete the play, but she feels nervous about her performance. But just then, she remembers Kaido's words about the pumpkins, and she gains some courage to sing a love song. With her song finished, the prince's mind clears, and he realizes who his true love is, and the rest of the actors begin the final act of the play by dancing together. The audience cheers for the happy ending, thinking the Kaido Kid was just an actor to spice up the story. However, the lead actress stomps off in fury, as Megumi's career skyrockets from her stellar performance, and she becomes a popular heroine. One day, Kaido gets away on his glider while Nakamori chases him down. Suddenly, a masked man flies next to Kaido, telling him that he's not a good parody of his country, France's legendary thief Arsène Lupin. Then he expresses his disappointment in Kaido's abilities, saying he could have stolen the precious dagger he got in half the time. The man introduces himself as Black Cat as he challenges Kaido to a match and leaves. Kaido later performs some research on Black Cat and finds out that he's a thief from France who loves stealing cat's eye gems. Then he looks into the location where he challenged him to a duel with Gi and finds something very interesting. In the giant hotel, Nakamori learns about the golden eye gem from the French security lead, Elaine, who reveals that the entire hotel is a trap set up to catch Black Cat. Elaine tells Nakamori that since he doesn't trust his pathetic security, he has called over his team. Just then, Ayako and Kaido arrive to greet them, which leads to Elaine humiliating Nakamori for having such loose security. However, he feels fine with letting some people enter, as that would help him lure Black Cat into his trap. Elaine reveals that the entire building is sealed with thick glass and titanium wire, so no sneaky thief could break out on their gliders. Then, as the final step in security, he makes Nakamori wear the ring on his own finger tightly, along with a gas mask and a tracker to keep him secure all the time. Nakamori thinks that he's completely safe since Kaido would never cut off his finger, but an investigator, a lady called Ruby, warns him that Black Cat might just do it. She explains that she's there to secure the gem since Black Cat has been stealing many other precious gems from the company owner, Mitsuishi, even cutting off his wife's hair to get a gem from her hairpin. Elaine offers Nakamori to wear a glove, and the poor police officer starts to realize he is in trouble. Nakamori starts grumbling about the rude security officers while Kaido smoothly removes the tracker from his tie. He seems ticked off that they all have names after jewels like Ruby, but Ayako gets offended since she was also named after a sapphire. She recalls that Ruby tried to talk to her about their similar names and birthdays, but Elaine broke them apart. Then Kaido goes into a bathroom to set up his strategy, but gets a call from his old friend Hakuba. Hakuba gives him some crucial pieces of information, revealing that Black Cat used to be a thief just like Kaido Kid and returned all the gems he stole. However, one day he started going after Cat's eye gems and never gave them back, and Hakuba notes that for some reason, he would return the stolen artifacts with replicas that looked exactly the same but without the real gem inside. With this information, Hakuba hangs up the call and leaves Kaido to fight his battle. Then, Kaido knocks out a guard in a nearby bathroom stall and steals his uniform. He calls Gi and goes out to give Ayako a pouch for him. Disguised as a guard, Kaido tells her that he has already left the building to get her out of the place. Meanwhile, the security officers all gather around Nakamori as they guard him from the thieves. Suddenly, Nakamori feels an intense pair of eyes trained on the ring on his finger, but fails to pinpoint its location. Black Cat waits patiently in the audience, a blade springing out from his hand, ready to remove the poor policeman's finger and the ring with it. As the time for the heist approaches, Elaine's security team stays on top guard. Nothing seems to happen as the sky looks clear, but Elaine reminds everyone that the skilled thieves could already be inside with them. Then suddenly, a guard bursts into the room with a bunch of others, ordering them all to turn on bright lights to highlight Nakamori and protect him. Ruby calls him out for the suspicious order, and Nakamori confirms that he didn't send any order like that. However, the guard keeps pushing, and as Ruby tries ripping the mask off his face, his men light the huge lights in everyone's face to blind them. Suddenly, the high power consumption trips a breaker, and the room turns dark. Elaine calms everyone down, saying they'll get electricity again in a little bit. But when the lights turn back on, Nakamori feels safe with his finger still clutched tightly. However, when he opens his hand, he finds that the ring is still on, with the jewel somehow removed from it. As they see Kaido Kid somehow fly out of the building, Ruby leaves to investigate while Elaine holds Nakamori back, pointing out that the Kaido outside is just a dummy. Suddenly, a guard comes in with an unconscious Elaine, and everyone jumps the other Elaine thinking he's Kaido Kid in disguise. Taking this chance, Kaido easily runs out and gets into an elevator. He gets out of the elevator's body, knowing that while the car is sealed with titanium, the glass windows of the lift are completely unprotected. As Kaido prepares to drill his way outside, Nakamori realizes that the Elaine he was violating is actually real, and the unconscious Elaine was just a guard with a mask. Kaido smugly turns the ring around on his hand, but before he can escape the lift, he receives a phone call from a strange number. He realizes that it's Black Cat on the other side, as Elaine explains to Nakamori that he put a fake ring on his hand, and the real ring was hidden on his tie behind the transmitter. However, Black Cat even cut off his tie and got the real ring for herself as he flew off in the plane. Kaido realizes that his plan was, and knows that he was the one who planted the Kaido dummy and ran off outside to check. Ruby feels surprised that he caught her so easily, but Kaido explains that he was able to identify her with Ayako's birthday comments, since only a French jewel of the month would belong to a month close to Ayako's birthday. Then, Kaido exposes Ruby's real reasons for theft, calling her out for being a sad thief trying to protect her parents' memento. Ruby sighs and explains that her father was a great craftsman who crafted a set of precious jewelry, mimicking historical artifacts, and gifted it to Mitsuishi. However, the replicas were so beautiful that Mitsuishi started passing them off as the real artifacts, which broke her father's heart and caused him to end his own life. And so, once Mitsuishi brought out her father's goods, she started stealing them to protect them from being sold off and used for simple profit. Unfortunately, Ruby then realizes that the real ring she got from Nakamori's finger was actually still fake. Kaido reveals that he took the ring from Nakamori's tie and replaced it with a fake. Ruby sighs, but gives up since she thinks he is a good person to trust it with. However, Kaido tells her that he won't be keeping the ring, hinting that she'll get it soon. Ruby doesn't dare to believe his words since she is mid-flight, but a ring drops into her drink as GI quietly walks away from her. She feels shocked by why Kaido is being so nice to her, but he tells her that her motives for theft are very reasonable, so he just wanted to help her while still showing his own abilities. Ruby is truly awed by the noble thief, and thanks him for the help of her lifetime as her plane flies off to her home country. In another heist, Kaido Kid finds himself trapped as the heavy rains render his glider useless. He receives a call from a strange person called Nightmare, claiming to be his friend. Nakamori discusses this strange criminal, Nightmare, who helped Kaido escape. He learns that Nightmare is an international criminal who helps thieves escape the police for half their loot, but somehow all of his partners end up either caught or shot dead by the police. This makes Nakamori realize that he'll be in for a serious show this time. As the day of Nightmare's announced robbery with Kaido Kid arrives, Nakamori calls over Kaido to check out his security measures. Kaido meets Ayako in a guard suit while Kenta, the son of the lead international investigator, Jack, makes his way to them. Jack gets surprised to see his little son, who tells him that he escaped his orphanage to come see him. The poor traveling agent has no idea how to handle his kid, so Ayako offers to take him home. Nakamori asks Jack what Nightmare is like, and he reveals that he is a cunning demon who manipulates people's minds. Kaido silently agrees, remembering how Nightmare threatened him with GI to make him perform a heist with him. Nakamori, meanwhile, proudly looks at the beautiful black opals called Dark Knight, protected by electrified chains and a casing of water. Kaido finds Ayako still walking around with a stubborn Kenta, who wants to stick around and fight with his dad. the little boy doubles over in pain, revealing that he has a tumor in his head that needs to be surgically removed. Ayako lets him take his medicine before taking him away to eat, telling Kaido that a certain friend is coming to stop his plans. Kaido realizes that she is talking about the eccentric genius detective named Hakuba, who is heading for their location in his car. Kaido gets into position and calls Nightmare, who informs him of all the security guarding the gems. He then dresses up as the director of the museum and pretends to check the gems. He uses this chance to mess with the box and prepares it for his next performance, pretending that his hands were shaking because of his old age. Meanwhile, Hakuba gets stuck in awful traffic after a message from Kaido, disguised as Nakamori, misguides his poor driver. Still dressed up as the director, Kaido dims the room's lights, claiming that they need to take care of the light-sensitive gems. Suddenly, however, the entire power goes off, and once it's back on, they find the gems still inside the case but floating on the water. However, Nakamori realizes that the gems can't float since they're heavier than water, so Kaido Kid has already stolen them and replaced them with fakes. The director checks and confirms that the gems are fake, while Jack rushes outside to check where Nightmare is waiting to meet his partner in crime. On his way home with Ayako, Kenta notices Jack's car driving by and tells his driver to chase him since he has something important to tell. Kenta reveals that his orphanage found a nice doctor who was willing to treat him for free, and he wants to give this news to his hardworking father so he can rest. Meanwhile, back in the museum, Hakuba arrives and checks the empty case. He shakes out a transparent pane from inside, revealing that Kaido had planted the panes inside to make the gems look like they were floating on water, while in reality, he just stole the real gems as the director and ran away. Kaido Kid enters an abandoned warehouse where the masked Nightmare greets him. He gives Nightmare both of the jewels, which surprises him, but Kaido explains he has no need for them. Then, he calls out Nightmare for being Detective Jack in disguise, which he initially denies. However, Kaido points out that while telling him the security figures of the museum, he counted one extra, even including Ayako, who wasn't visible in the police security cameras. Jack takes off his mask after getting exposed, saying he never trusts something unless he sees it with his own eyes. Kaido points out that he always disposes of the criminals after they uncover his identity, because in reality, Jack is simply going around stealing gems to get money for his son's surgery while also taking care of the thieves who partner with him. Suddenly, Kenta enters the building and yells for his father, which startles Jack. He trips on the broken floor, which breaks, but Kaido barely catches his hand. He asks the man who dropped the gems and grabs both his hands, but Jack hesitates to let go of his son's money. Unfortunately, his hesitation causes Kaido's glove to slip off his hand, leading to Jack falling straight to the floor on his back. As he lies there in a bloody mess, Kaido shoots off his mask so Jack's son can see him one last time. The little boy cries for his fallen father, so close yet so far away from giving him the news that would have given both of them a normal, happy life. Sometime later, Kaido gets another challenge from the rich Jirakichi. He stomps off to prepare, leaving poor Ayako with an uneaten breakfast. He takes out Ayako near the mall where Jirakichi will display his gems, waiting for the right time. At night, the old man confidently displays his gems in a crowded street, thinking that Kaido Kid won't be able to steal on the ground as he did in the air with tall buildings. Suddenly, Kaido Kid appears gliding in the sky and with a smoke bomb trick. He suddenly appears right over the gems in front of the whole crowd. As reporters interview him, Jirakichi calls for a giant net to surround the area, cutting off his escape route. However, Kaido remains calm and promises them he is going to teleport away from the net as he has got what he came here for. Hearing this, everyone is shocked, but then he suddenly vanishes in a poof of smoke and somehow appears on the roof of a tall building outside the net's reach. The reporters on the building ask Kaido how he pulled it off, but he simply shows them the two gems and exposes one of them for being fake. He then demands that Jirakichi display the other real gem the next night. And then he jumps off the building and flies off using his glider. Conan tries to stop him using his lightning kick, but only manages to knock his monocle down, and Kaido looks down smiling at him and tells him to come see his show the next day as well. In the morning, Conan wonders what trick Kaido used to teleport, but thinks it is related to the 20 seconds he took to count. The next day, as the crowd gathers to watch Kaido Kid's performance, they get disappointed as Jirakichi keeps them outside the net. Suddenly, a message from Kaido Kid announces that he won't be performing since it's no fun to perform without the crowd and TV anchors reporting everything. And so, the annoyed crowd starts protesting to let them inside, and they easily overwhelm Jirakichi's security to get in. Once the crowd is in, Kaido finds Conan and dares him to solve his mystery. He then disappears again, and an announcement from Kaido Kid tells the crowd he'll resume his performance. Conan looks around and sees a recording of Kaido's previous teleportation, which gives him an idea. Kaido changes into his white suit and comes flying on his glider. Jirakichi sees the propeller on his body and thinks it's just a fake, but realizes that Kaido just tricked him. Then, Kaido once again pulls his teleportation stunt, disappearing in a poof of smoke as he quickly changes into a black dress and runs out to a big LED advertising screen. Riding the screen up using a pulley, Kaido almost completes his trick, but finally gets caught by Conan on the roof. Conan exposes him for luring out the TV staff while planting Grandpa GI to install a pulley and act as the counterweight on the other side. Conan points out that Kaido also used the black parts of the screen, moving up to disguise himself while keeping the audience occupied with his messages. However, he dares Kaido to run from him, now since that would expose Grandpa GI to fall down and get caught by the police. Kaido smiles at this and simply jumps off the middle, quickly grabbing GI's hand and flying off with him into the night. Conan shoots at his glider, but Kaido easily avoids it and flies off as the crowd cheers for him. Conan is once again left shocked and in awe despite figuring out Kaido's simple tricks and clever execution. One day in school, Kaido prepares to steal a very precious ruby called Red Tear, but Akako comes to warn him to stop. She tells him that it's a demonic stone with strange powers, and Kaido remembers that even his father has a history with this strange gem. Later, while walking down the street with Ayako, Kaido groans at her complaints about Kaido Kid canceling his raid on the Red Tear. However, he then notices a fat man pickpocketing her. Before Kaido can catch him, a woman easily takes his money and gives it back to Ayako. Kaido recognizes that she's amazing with her smooth movements and learns that she is Judy, the owner of the Red Tear, and granddaughter of one of the best magicians in England. Judy also knows about Kaido and his father, but says that magicians are just a bunch of liars who trick people for money. She reveals that she is leaving magic and holding her final show soon, to which both of them are invited. As she leaves, Kaido notices the strange men who put his father down shadowing her as well, realizing they're after the Red Tear, too. On the night of the show, Ayako grumbles after getting abandoned by Kaido with a flimsy excuse, while the gang members quietly prepare to make their move, unaware that Kaido is hidden with them. As the show begins, Judy is surprised to see her friends performing extra good. Her old butler, Robert, reminds Judy that all of them love magic and want to keep the show going. But Judy coldly refuses, saying they can do it without her. Robert leaves to tend to the guests, and Nakamori asks him about the Red Tear. Robert explains that Judy's parents were great magicians who performed with that jewel, but one day, they lost their lives in a tragic accident while performing. Since then, Judy's grandfather retired from magic and gave her the jewel as a keepsake. As the magic show reaches its finale, it suddenly gets interrupted by Kaido Kid, who throws the whole place into chaos. The magician named Paul takes Judy to the dressing room, where they see Robert cornered by the gangsters. They threaten to shoot Judy if she doesn't give them the jewel, but Robert pleads with her not to give up her parents' memory. The gangster pulls the trigger, but Paul jumps in front of Judy as the gun shoots with a loud bang. Outside, as Nakamori chases Kaido Kid, the white magician strangely shoots to stop him with a real gun, leaving him shocked. Judy tries to give the gem to the gangster, but Paul stops her and suddenly gets up completely fine, revealing a bulletproof vest under his shirt. Then, he reveals his real identity as Kaido, who floods the room with smoke and escapes with Judy. As Kaido notices the gang's fake Kaido Kid flying outside, a gang member catches up and shoots at him. He hides behind a stair wall, and Judy takes some water in her mouth and spits it through a lighter to flame the gangster. Kaido then catches her and runs to the top of the roof. The gangster corners him there, but then suddenly, the entire restaurant room starts spinning with its strange mechanism. As the man slams into the wall, Kaido corners him with his card gun. With one final card, the window behind the gangster breaks apart, and he falls out of the building. Kaido stops the building. After the dust settles down, Judy thanks Kaido for his help, but feels like the cursed ruby really ruined her magic show and got her hurt. She thinks about leaving the jewel once and for all, but Kaido tells her that it wasn't magic that got everyone hurt. He points out that the name of the jewel is Red Tear despite being blue in color, and explains that the red stands for fire. As Kaido shines fire on the jewel, it displays a beautiful arrangement of Judy's pictures performing magic. She receives a message from her grandfather reminding her of the first exciting time she went on stage to perform magic, saying that he knows that even though she thinks magic is her enemy, she will grow to love it after remembering her genuine passion. Kaido sees a picture of Judy's family with his father, remembering that his father protected the jewel for James' granddaughter. Judy is moved by her grandfather's love for her passion and her parents' admiration for the art of magic once again. She decides to take up magic once again and continue her family's legacy. One day, Kaido receives the final message from his dad telling him that the place where his audience gathers is the place of a duel. His dad tells him to always use all his tracks and to never forget his smile and poker face. Later, he easily knocks out some guards guarding the world's largest black diamond. Kaido thinks it's too easy with Hakuba and Nakamori gone, but then suddenly, his hands lose all strength from the room's cold temperature. Hakuba and Nakamori come grinning out of their hiding spot, having found his weakness. They get all the guards to catch and pummel him, but find out that it was just one of their squad mates whom Kaido put a face mask on, and he tells them that the real Kaido escaped through the ceiling. However, as the police run away to chase Kaido, the officer that gets left behind in their handcuffs grins because he's the real Kaido, and he was just wearing multiple face masks to fool them. He feels proud of his disguise, but then Hakuba grabs his shoulder and tells him to go change his uniform to protect himself from getting suspected. Later, as news spreads that Kaido Kid failed, he asks Ji for help about a strange old geezer helping the police ruin his plans. Ayakot tells him that he's called Nezu the Hedgehog, not to be confused with Sonic the Hedgehog, and he focuses on taking down magicians. Then she tells him that Nezu is visiting Japan soon to visit Nakamori, so Kaido decides to send the old man a gift. As Nezu arrives and gets escorted by Nakamori, he notices a little bug planted on his tie. He immediately calls out Kaido Kid for spying on him while calmly preparing to greet him in a new trap he's preparing. He tells Nakamori to get the room colder than Kendrick Lamar's diss track against Drake, but the policeman worries if even he will be able to move in such freezing cold. Listening to them through the bug, Kaido remains confident that he can just keep himself warm with a special suit. But then Nezu reveals that his real target is a certain magician in black. Just then, Hakuba gives them news that a magician called Kaido Corbo has announced to take their black diamond. Kaido meets this black crow on the roof, and he greets him with crow feathers. The Kaido Corbo, who looks just like Kaido, feels like he saw him before, and Kaido remembers seeing him on a building a while back. Corbo reveals that he is actually a senior student of his father, Tuichi, and is carrying on his legacy. He mocks Kaido for being overconfident enough to jump into Nezu's trap, and declares that he will steal the diamond from him without anyone even noticing. Corbo tells Kaido that if he cannot find out his plans to steal the diamond, he should retire instead of further disgracing his father, and Kaido agrees. As the mysterious gang also keeps an eye on the raid, Nakamori and the others receive news that Kaido Kid will not be attending. Nezu gets Nakamori briefed on the security of the gem, explaining that its container is fitted with a spiked blade that cuts anyone who tries to get close, and the case is sealed with sturdy glass that can only be opened by yanking up the handles. He checks the gem while sneakily pocketing the real thing for himself and replacing it. And thus, he makes Nakamori sit on the glass and grip the handles tightly to prevent anyone from opening it. When suddenly, Corbo's crow feathers fill the room. Nakamori holds on for dear life, and the feathers disappear quietly. Once everyone's vision gets cleared, they get shocked to find the gem missing despite Nakamori being in position. Nezu takes out a coin in the gem's place, giving him the message that Corbo will be back for the real thing. He explains that he swapped the gem with a fake while inspecting it, and they need to figure out how Corbo operates after blocking their vision. Kaido, who was secretly watching as a guard, leaves on Nakamori's order with this new experience in mind. As he goes home, he wonders about the real identity of Kaido Corbo, since Ji didn't remember that his father had a student. As he reaches home, Kaido is surprised to see his mother cooking inside. His mom asks him about the news of his failure, and Kaido asks her who Corbo is. She reveals that Corbo is actually a famous magician from Las Vegas. Kaido then asks about Nezu, and Chikage seems upset at his mention, saying that he is an old geezer who exposes magicians' tricks in detail. However, somehow, the attention from Nezu's exposure actually helps the magicians get a more interested audience. Chikage then wonders if Kaido wants to settle as a magician in Vegas and quit the dangerous job of being a phantom thief instead. Kaido thinks about it and realizes that even though he started to act as a phantom thief to avenge his father, his goals changed, and he genuinely started enjoying his job. He spends his time thinking hard about how Corbo could have performed his trick, and when he looks at the coin he got, his hands get dirtied by ink, which gives him a clue. With this key detail, Kaido finally gets ready to expose Corbo's trick in front of everyone. Inside the museum, Nezu gets the room cooled even more to make it hard for the robbers. while bringing in a big fan to blow out any potential feathers that block vision. As poor Nakamori sits on the glass once again with a huge fan blowing air into him, he strangely feels like the seat is warm. Suddenly, the cooling system shuts down, and feathers fall into the room despite the vents being blocked. Hakuba examines the feathers and finds out that they were painted the same color as the ceiling, while black on the other side, and stuck to it when the room was cold. He realizes that since the cooling shut down, the feathers have cooled down and scattered around. With their security having failed, Nezu orders the group to turn off the fan. Once they turn it off, they get shocked to find the gem missing once more, with a gold coin in its place. Nezu stays calm, though, and pulls out the real diamond once again from his pocket. However, Nakamori gets mad at him for getting duped by a dull fake, and as he sees Corbo flying outside, he runs out with his guards to chase him. As Nezu bends down to take the dull diamond, suddenly, someone else snatches it from him. Kaido starts breaking down Nezu's plan, saying that he is the one who organizes his own robbery and tricks the audience into thinking it can't be explained. Kaido reveals that Nezu simply painted the diamond black to make it look like a dull replica, while he replaced the diamond in the case with an ice block colored black. Once the cooling shut down, Nezu's gold coin below it would appear as the ice melted without a trace on the black cloth. After thoroughly explaining all of Nezu's tricks, Kaido figures out that he and Corbo are working together to put on a show for someone. Then he asks Nezu the real identity of Corbo, who called himself his father's student, and if he really wants to avenge him. Nezu asks him the same question, and Kaido declares that even though he wants to avenge his father, he wants to move on afterward and surpass his father as a magician as well. His words move Nezu, but then suddenly, they're interrupted by the gangsters demanding the gem from them. Then Kaido gets another surprise as Nezu, behind him, turns into the real Kaido Corbo with a blast of feathers, the man flying outside only being his assistant. As Corbo begins speaking, Kaido gets shocked to see him look just like his father. He gets no time to ask questions as the guards point a gun at Corbo, who avoids all their shots with his cloaks, while the air conditioning turns on again and slows their movements. Corbo then shoots the emergency fire sprinklers, which spray water over the gangsters' feet and freeze them on the spot. Nakamori and his team soon come inside, but are greeted with an empty time, as Kaido and Corbo both fly outside. After Kaido parts ways with Corbo and returns home, he receives a letter from his mom telling him she'll return to Vegas. She also warns him to stop using heating pads on his body since it's bad for his skin, but Kaido gets shocked since the only person who knows about it is Corbo himself. Later, we see Kaido relaxing at Gi's cafe when Ayako gets Hakuba and Akako with her to form a team to catch the sneaky Kaido kid. Kaido proudly declares that if he decides to do it, he will easily surpass the Kaido kid and become the best magician in the world. And this is where our exciting story ends for now. If you liked this video, please consider subscribing and watch the video on your screen next.